Hi guys, how's it going? Enrique here. This is Enzyme Art TV. This is another in the videos of Under the Microscope. This is where we take a small portion of the larger videos and kind of dig in depth into it. Today, we're going to go over the dragon tail. If you guys missed out on the last videos, check them out right here. I'm going to make them clickable for you. The first video goes over the dragon head, and the second video goes over the anatomy of the dragon. Alright guys, let's get into it. There are two kinds of tails that I generally see. I think almost every tail I've seen has fallen into these two groups, and I'm going to go over it with you right now. They go over, one's going to be the stiff kind, and the other is going to be the slithering kind. So let me go over that. Basically, when you're going over the stiff kind, which I mean stuff like the T-Rex, Allosaurus, mostly dinosaurs have this type. It's essentially a triangle. That's a triangular shape, but it is it's basically a cone shape. And you can kind of alter it any way you want, but no matter how it's shaped, it's essentially a cone stuck to the back of whatever, your dragon. One thing to take into account, remember that the tail is there for balance. On almost every living animal, it is there for balance and coordination and things like that. So think about how big you want it. Maybe don't make it too ridiculously big or too ridiculously small. But it's really up to you, and you can experiment with that. Also, when you shade the tail, you shade it pretty much as a cylinder, an organic cylinder, right? There's going to be a little bit of difference between, right, a solid, polygon shape and, obviously an organic shape. But when you're shading, you're essentially shading it the same way. In the last video, I did go over core shadows, things like that. I'll give you a little quick refresher course. The light is coming from above. It's going to hit the light source, and chances are, since the light's coming from above, it's going to hit the ground on the side of it, and it's going to bounce up from the ground and give it a little bit of light back onto the tail itself, because the tail's going to be hovering over the ground. And because of that, you're going to have this band of shadow, which is called a core shadow. Anyways, that's just a refresher course. If you want to go look that up more, check out the last video, which I'll link somewhere on this page. And you basically shade it as so. Another thing about this, let's say you took a slice out of that. It would essentially look like this. You take a slice out of that and you show it face side. It's gonna look probably like, there's gonna be bone in there and vertebrae. It's gonna be basically a circle. And really it's gonna be like an organic circle. Probably gonna have like some peaks over here. You can also add the kind of slithering bottom portion of, like, that's more the stomach. The snake's belly. You can add that snake belly all the way to the end of that tail, whichever you want. That is a very typical dragon stomach, kind of a counter shading type kind of belly that runs all the way to the end. Sometimes it runs all the way to the end, sometimes they don't. Depends on the artist. Depends up to you. So experiment with that. That's the first kind. That would be the stiff kind. So now we're going to go over the slithering kind. The slithering kind is essentially what it sounds like. It's more like the type that, you see on devil designs, or you see on like snakes' bodies and things like that. And the way I start that with a line. I essentially start that with a single line. And then I double that line, I try to make it more even than what I just did right there. But you can, for variation, you can change the size as it turns. And towards the end of it, you can make whatever you want. You can make the devil's arrow. You can make like an axe. You can make whatever you want towards the end of that. I'm going to thicken this up a little bit to make it look. Another thing about this is what you can do is you shade this the same way you shade that. You're thinking of this as one long cylinder, and that you can shade it, but on a much smaller scale, of course. Another thing, cool thing you can do with this type of tail is you can make it cast a shadow onto itself, like I did right there. Because the light's coming from above, it will cast a shadow. Anyways, like so. Experiment with the ends of these too. You can kind of put. Remember, the dragon's character will be affected by things on its body. you know, and what it does. You could put like a little like Venus flytrap toward the end of its tail, and that would be like maybe an alien dragon, something like that. Think of different storylines that will affect how your dragon looks, you know, because the way it looks will directly affect the storyline. So anyways, those are every tail I've seen has been pretty much a variation on these two, as far as I've seen. Don't forget to subscribe and check our videos every week.